Welcome back, Last Man In, episode 195, with just the dynamic duo of Dan and Greg, and I think this is going to be a pretty much fully filled Jets podcast because, well, they're in the second round, they're playing Nashville, and they're currently up 2-1 in the series. Even though there was game one where they were heavily outplayed, game two where I think they had the better of the two games. They were the better of the two teams in that game. Had a disallowed goal that, maybe they'd want back. And then game three, which we'll obviously talk about because both Dan and I were there. So let's start first and foremost. Game one, which was last Friday in Nashville. And basically the way that I saw this series going was it was the two heavyweights from the Central Division going at it. This is what we expected. This is the matchup that we all wanted, and I thought it was going to deliver. And then Winnipeg got outshot to all hell. Like, what was it, 44-16?
Something along those lines. It was a lot of shots. It was a lot of shots for one team and not a lot of shots for the Jets.
Exactly. And I just sat there. I was watching it with a friend, and the one thing I did notice was a lot of the shots that Nashville was getting there were from like the outside. So yeah, there's sure high shot counts, but you got to think shot quality when it comes to this as well. One thing that I noticed, and I think it was right before Winnipeg scored their second goal. So Winnipeg was up 1-0, and I believe it was their second goal was scored from kind of a scramble in front of the net, kind of an opportunity. So right as that puck was passed in front, and I can't remember who got it, but there was just a shot on net, and then the scramble ensued to get the second goal. But that shot from the slot, I turned and said to my friends, I'm like, that's the difference I've noticed so far this game, is the fact that Nashville hasn't gotten to that area. They haven't pushed that area to get that high-quality scoring chance, where Winnipeg has, and then, albeit they scored. So even though the shots were very much leaning to Nashville favor, I think scoring chances, they were pretty even in that sense. And what was it, 4-0 final in game one?
4-1.
4-1.
Yeah, I saw the game the same way you did. Like, people look at the shots and go, "Oh, the Jets stole it, Hellebuck stole it." Watching the game, I didn't feel that way. I felt the Jets weren't driving the play, but I don't necessarily know that they really played that bad. Like you said, I don't think the Preds, they were shooting basically from everywhere. Like, they had a lot of point shots, a lot of easy, not easy saves, but saves that Hellebuck is going to make. So I think that the shot totals tell a little bit of a different story. I think the Jets obviously wanted to play better, and they showed that in the next couple games in periods. But yeah, I don't think it was as one-sided as it seems it was. Granted, yeah, but I think they do. You don't want to play that way against Nashville for 7 games because you probably won't win.
No, you definitely can't allow that kind of discrepancy in shot. But the other thing too that you alluded to was there was a lot of point shots, and I think part of what Nashville does is we talked about it at the beginning of the year. We've talked about it in the middle of the year. Nashville's very deep on defense, very deep. When your fourth best defenseman is Matthias Ekholm, you're doing something right. So a lot of their offense is driven from point shots that then turn into scrambles in front of the net where they can get their big guys in front, because they have a strong, tough team in front that's tough to move. But one guy that's played probably his best hockey is Dustin Byfuglien, and very good at moving guys from the front of the net, which allowed Hellebuck to see a lot of these shots, whereas other teams, in the Colorado series, they don't have that net front presence defensively to box those guys out to allow the goalie to see those shots. So they were taking these point shots, but they were essentially allowing Hellebuck to see it, which Hellebuck's going to make a point save 14 out of 15 times. It's going to be, that one time where it's a perfect shot that it's going to go in. But if he sees it, he's going to stop it.
Yeah.
He has to save Dustin Byfuglien in practice and Patrick Laine. I think he has a lot of practice on good point shots and good shots.
The Jets all year have played. They've really perfected the whole, almost the New York Rangers style of hockey, where they basically load up the center of the ice. So they'll give you the long shots, but they don't. A lot of them don't get through. And the ones that do get through, like you said, usually Hellebuyck sees, he sees them, or he's in a good spot, so it hits him.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the way the Jets have sort of learned to play this year. I don't always like it because I feel like they're a little too passive sometimes, but they're good at it.
They do. There are times where it did feel they were a little bit outclassed in their own zone, just because maybe they are too passive. Maybe they're looking for the perfect breakout play. Like, I know when you're down in a situation like that, before they went up 1-0, you're looking for anything, but you're also looking to not make that mistake. And I think a lot of them were playing a little bit less aggressive in game one because they didn't. Like, that's a bigger stage. Like, as much as you want to talk about playoffs, every round is more pressure than the last. Every round, everything is under a microscope just that much more, and scrutinized and analyzed. So a lot of them were, I think, a little bit cautious in the first game, and then the fact that they get the win in game one and they win the way they did, I think that gave them a lot of confidence moving forward. And then obviously we'll talk about game three. Game three happens, and I don't know where they're going to go from here, but obviously then game two happened, which was a different story.
Oh, totally.
They carried the play. I thought they were very dominant at certain times, but obviously you had the kickback from Nashville. You're not going to have a team that won the Western Conference last year just lay down and let you walk over them. That's not what Nashville did. No. So we saw a lot of the nastiness start to come through in game two. I felt that was a much better played game by both teams, just execution-wise by Nashville, being able to penetrate the center of the ice, getting some better chances, obviously solving Hellebuyck. And then on top of that, you have Winnipeg, who I thought came out of their shell a little bit more, played more aggressive, and generated a lot better opportunities than they did in game one.
Totally. Yeah, this was the Jets playing the way the Jets play, not worrying about kind of. I think, like you said, I think the first game, I think they were a little cautious because they knew who they were playing, and I think they know that this is their toughest. To me, this is their toughest test that they're going to have in the playoffs. And I think I think they're a little cautious, and I think this game they kind of realized, like, let's just play because we can hang with them, and They really showed in this game. Nashville scored 20 seconds into the game. Jets come back, get 2 goals real quick. Back and forth lead changes. The Jets tie the game in the third period. Nashville scores 20 seconds later to take the lead again, and then the Jets are all over them for the last 10 minutes, and they tie the game up with a minute to go. So I think they know that they can hang with them, and it really showed in this game that, to me, this was the game where you watch it, you're like, these are the 2 best teams in the whole league. And you can tell. Mm-hmm. And that's no disrespect to the other teams that are left, but in my opinion, they're the 2 best teams. They were statistically, but they just aren't. They're very even.
They are very even.
Yeah.
The fact that you get that sense that neither team's going to just lay down there. You have Nashville who scores early. Like, I remember I didn't even see the first 3 minutes of the game, and I'm like, oh, it's already 1-0. Nashville, maybe this is going to be their outbreak game where they're just going to dominate. And the easiest thing to do if you're an away team, especially an inexperienced away team, a young away team in a playoff game, and you get scored on 20 seconds in, you can easily get deflated. Mm-hmm. Boom, there goes anything. And I think a lot of credit has to go to the entire roster, the coaching staff, everyone, to be able to bring the team in and say, there's still 59 minutes left of hockey.
Yeah.
If you guys can't score a goal in 59 minutes, you guys do not deserve to be here. Yeah, and they ended up scoring, four more?
Yeah, it ended up being a 5-4 double OT win.
Which was the first taste of overtime hockey this year.
I hate it. I don't like it. It's too stressful. It's funny. I probably said this before, but you watch the playoffs. If you're not pulling for anybody, you love those games.
Yeah, exactly.
When it's your team, it's the worst thing ever.
It's so stressful.
Sucks. It made it better that the fact that they were up 1-0. It's not like it's like an elimination game or they're going to go down in the series. But
imagine Game 7 double overtime. You're just going to lose it.
I'd really die. I would die. No, I'd straight up dead.
You got to wear a heart monitor and just.
I think I'd break the heart monitor.
Every shot.
It was rough.
Oh, here's the goaltender interference call that we inevitably have to have because it's the NHL.
It was rough, and it was a good overtime. I mean, both teams had a lot of really good chances. I mean, the Jets were. It's kind of crazy to think that they were probably a centimeter of Rene's glove away from being up 2-0. Because that Morrissey shot that he got, that was by the tip of the glove that did not go in.
Yeah. What a coming out party for him, eh? All playoffs.
You know what? Honestly, the whole decor, Trouba, like Jacob Trouba, since Game 5 in the first round, he's been unbelievable. Like he's been, but he's been so good. He's been what he was hyped up to be. The first 2 games he looked very nervous. He looked very tentative. And then that game 5, in my opinion, he was the best player on the ice. And I think in this series, maybe aside from Dustin Byfuglien, he's been their best defenseman.
Byfuglien just been something else.
Byfuglien, we're seeing 2010.
That's
Byfuglien.
That's exactly what I think. The way he celebrated his goal in Game 3, I was like, that's Hawks. Flyers, Dustin Byfuglien right there.
And the frustrating thing with Byfuglien is that he has this ability to play the way he's playing. Like, I mean, Game 3, like, that was his game.
Oh, yeah.
Like, 100%. Like, that was his game. And he is really, there is no one like him in the NHL. And the frustrating thing about being a Jets fan is that he doesn't always play like that in the regular season. He'll ramp it up at times, but a lot of times you can tell he's just not going through the motions, but he's not being the force that he can be. So it's nice to see that when it all matters, he's doing what he can do, and it's fun to watch.
It is.
I mean, I don't think anybody would, obviously there's a long way to go, but I don't think anybody, because he gets he does get a lot of criticism from Jets fans, from outside media. I mean, to my opinion, he's this
podcast.
He's a front runner for the Conn Smythe right now, and I don't think anybody would have said that.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a long way to go.
I don't know if I'm picking.
He's in my opinion, he's got to be up there with Fleury, with Pasternak, with the. I mean, he's
the way though that like
so
Blake
dominating.
Wheeler and Mark Scheifele are playing, it's hard to not consider them in Winnipeg as well. That's the crazy thing. So Nashville wins Game 2, move into Game 3, where
madness happened.
Like, I was at this game. You were at this game. My first ever playoff experience. Ever.
Okay.
Ever going to a playoff game. And I was not prepared. I don't think... you hear about it.
I don't think you could be prepared for what happened.
You hear about the whiteout. You hear, how loud it is. And you're like, yeah, but, I've been to, Packers games. I've been to college football games. Let's be honest here. And I watched, opening faceoff was nuts. And then I think a lot of the air got sucked out of the building, obviously, after that first period, when you look and you're like, holy crap, Nashville's up 3-0 right now.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And everyone's like, this is bad. But then there was that sense of, but we have Laine, Ehlers, Scheifele, Wheeler. We're going to be okay. I didn't think they'd come back in the way they did in the second period, but I said... Yeah. The chances of this getting away from them, which, compare it to my favorite team, which is the Toronto Maple Leafs, that game gets away from the Toronto Maple Leafs, it becomes a 6-1, 6-2 hockey game. This Jets team is different than that. They didn't let the game get away from them. I didn't think they would have the second period they did, but I thought that, they're going to get one in the second, they're going to chip away, they're going to make it close. They may not come back, but they're going to make it a game. They're not just going to roll over and let Nashville take one from them on their own rink. Then the second period happened.
I don't even know how to explain. I mean, yeah,
it's a blur to me.
It was one of those games too where it's not even like they played that bad in the first period. It's just that all of a sudden it's 3-0 and you're like, what the hell happened? Granted, I think Hellebuck, probably all 3 of those are ones he normally makes a save on. The first one that was tipped, whatever. But the Subban shot, he normally makes that save, and it went through him. And the third goal was, I think it went off a stick again, but still, that's a shot, he usually makes a save on, or you'd like to see him. But yeah, like I was there at the first intermission, and we're like, well, that sucked. But then you're like, yeah, in the back of your head, you're like, well, a 3-0 lead, like 5 years ago, that would have been game over. But now in the NHL, 3-0, it's not as uncommon as it really used to be for teams to come back. And like you said, you're in my head, I'm like, okay, well, if they can get one, like they have to get the next one. If they can get one here, maybe another one going into the third period, then they'll put the pressure on. Because the other thing you have to think about too is in my head, I'm saying, okay, well, this is Nashville. What are the chances that they're going to blow a 3-0 lead?
Yeah.
Usually the best defensive team in the NHL.
Yeah. The crazy thing too is when you have a lead like this, especially like the analytics community, there's a thing called score effects, which normally happens if you have a lead. If you have a lead, the other team's going to shoot because you're playing more of a passive style. So there's going to be the Corsi's going to be all over the place, right? Because now you have a team that's down that's just going to be trying to get everything. So what's that value going to be? But it wasn't even like the Jets were throwing anything on net. They were playing their game. They were being aggressive, and they get the first goal. It's 3-1. There was some life on the team. You could feel it in the building that everyone's like, okay, we can do this.
But it was such an odd circumstance because from where I'm sitting, like I'm sitting on the complete opposite end of the arena.
Yeah.
So you see, I forget who made, was it Trouba that made the shot? You see Trouba take the shot, and you see the puck just kind of, it looked like it went post out. But then you see Stastny put his arms up, and the play keeps going, and Stastny just stands there with his arms up. He's like, nope, that was a goal. And then everyone sort of like, and then he just goes to the bench and starts like doing the handshake. And the referees blow it down. And then everybody starts to slowly be like, okay, starts to stand up and cheer. And then everyone's like, I guess we scored. And then they show the replay, and yeah, it goes right in the back. And it was such an odd circumstance because he was the only guy on the ice that really knew the puck went in.
Yeah.
But once that happened, the crowd just, there was that, and then there was the hit on Wheeler, and that, to me, that's when the game changed. Like the Jets were building momentum, then the big hit happens, which I didn't think it was a dirty hit, but I thought it's one of those like blindside hits that's like it's close.
Yeah.
Like I mean there was head contact because his helmet went flying off, but I don't think he hit him in the the principal point of contact wasn't the head.
Yeah,
it's one of those where Wheeler's skating forward and Watson comes completely sideways and just and then
Austin Watson-esque hit.
Yes.
That's what you want from a player like him. You want him to play like that. You just don't want to see injuries happen.
He was a real interesting momentum shift factor in this game because because he scored the third goal, and when he did, he skated right to the Jets bench and he was mouthing. I don't know what he said. But he just skated right to them and he basically mouthed off saying, 3-0. And I think that got it going, and then I think the hit, that was and then, you see the hits and you don't know if they've called a penalty, and you see Scheifele, go after him, and then you go, oh great. Great, now it's 4-on-4, which ended up being the best thing that could have happened because what was it, 18 seconds?
2 goals in 18 seconds.
Which was just there was such an energy high from the Bufflin goal that I didn't even see the second goal. Like I saw it happen and I didn't even know how to react because my brain wasn't there yet.
You see it develop.
It was ridiculous.
Well, no, you're cheering so loudly because the one goal went in, and then no one even half the building hadn't even sat down yet, and then you're like, and we scored again! Ah!
It was ridiculous. My favorite part is there's a slow motion angle taken from the Jets bench, and as soon as Wheeler passes the puck over to Trouba, there's one guy in the front row. He's already jumping up, being he hasn't even shot the puck yet, but he just knows it's because wide open net, and this guy's just already halfway up before the puck even goes in. It's hilarious.
And Trouba gets it, and instead of just instinctively, what you're trying to do there is you just rip it at the net. Stops it, waits, and then puts it in the spot he wants it.
Yep.
No one was on him, and the place erupted.
Ridiculous.
That's when I knew I was like, oh, this is something special. This atmosphere is something special, because you hear about the whiteout, like I said earlier, but then you feel the whiteout and you experience it's insane.
It's crazy.
Wow.
I would not want to be a team that has to come in here and play that.
Well, and you're probably thinking if you're Nashville, you're in their building, you're up 3-0 through the first period. You've taken their fans out of the game. They're not a factor. This whiteout isn't a factor.
And then boom.
And then you let them back in.
Yep.
And as soon as that third goal went in, you could tell everyone's like, well, we're winning now. And the Jets weren't going to let that escape from them.
Well, and it's like when they tied it and then they eventually took the lead.
4 goals in the second period.
Yeah. You know,
what a period. Like,
at that point, you're like, I'm sitting there, I'm going, it's not over, but there's no way that they don't win this game now.
Exactly.
Like, even when Nashville tied the game in the third period, you're sitting there, you're like, there's no way they don't win this game.
Well, to open old wounds, like, it was Boston-Toronto 4-1. That's what it felt like. When Boston scored that third goal to tie it at 4-4, you're like, Boston's winning this game. Yeah. That's the same feeling I had. And I was like, it's so nice to be on the other side of this. It's so nice.
Yeah.
I wish I knew what this was always like. But it was that game, and I've seen it by every sports writer. This is the game you look back on to say that was the game that changed their fortunes to winning the cup, essentially. Like, this is the game you build on if you're Winnipeg, and this is the experience you build on if you're Nashville. Like,
yep.
Nashville ties a game in the third period, and then Winnipeg takes the lead. Who scored the fifth goal?
It was Wheeler with about 4 minutes to go on the power play.
Oh, yeah. His celebration was unreal, too.
Well, and I see lots of fans and players on the Preds, they weren't happy with the officiating because I think Nashville got 3 minors in the last 10 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
But they were all penalties.
Yeah,
I don't know how. Like, I get that they're mad, but like the trip along the boards, the first one they called, I was like, like it's a penalty. But you could have let that one go. But like the Subban high stick, like he hits him right in the face. Like what the referee's right there. Like
he's not gonna miss that.
How do you? And that was the eventual game-winning goal.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Rene, I was surprised they called it, but have you ever seen Pekka Rene get mad?
No.
Like, for him to turn around and was it Lowry?
Yeah.
Just to two-hand him in the back, like, the Jets are under their skin.
Oh, for sure.
And this is a team, I think, Nashville, that come into the playoffs this year, they said, well, we were within 2 goals, or two games of the Stanley Cup. This is the year, like, we're going to do it. And I think Colorado...
Like Fisher even came back for that.
Well, exactly. And I think the Avalanche were a harder test than they thought, but they still got through them. And I think they're realizing that the Jets are every bit as good, if not have been better than the Preds in this series.
This isn't last year. Like, I felt that Nashville had a much easier path than this year. Like, you had a first-round matchup against Colorado that no one in their right mind thought Colorado was going to win that series, so they had nothing to play for. Like, Colorado had nothing. They were essentially using house money that entire series. So why wouldn't they come out and play a little unorganized, a little bit crazy, because they're playing for nothing. Like, they're just happy to be there. Whereas Nashville had all the pressure in that series. Then they come into this series where they're playing against a team that just outplayed Minnesota for 4.5 games. Mm-hmm. And then has all the momentum, has a ton of rest. They're starting to get guys back in their lineup. For tonight, Armia is coming back.
Yeah, and
it sounds like Perreault's a game time decision.
Probably next game.
Yeah, they're debating between putting Perreault.
He's good to go, but it's just a matter of if they want to put him in tonight or if they want to give him another.
Mm.
And I think too the fact that coming off the emotional high of the last game, you don't want to tinker it too much.
Mm-hmm.
I was
going to put Armia
in
if you.
Well, but the thing I'm surprised about is that Roslovic's coming out. I thought Hendricks would come out.
Yeah,
but I guess they he plays the penalty kill. He's a centerman. He's a good guy to have on the bench in the room. So I think there's a warrant for him being there. I'm a little surprised. I thought he would be the guy that comes out.
But the other theory with that too is you went out and you got Matt Hendricks to play in these games.
Oh, for sure.
Jack Roslovic's 20?
Yeah,
like, as good as he's been, which I will not say anything negative about the guy. Like, has surpassed any expectations I had for him this season. I think that he has to know where he stands. He is, if you're bringing a guy like Armia back, Perlbeck. Like, that's a guy that slots out. It has to be the way it is, unfortunately. But he's been as important to this team as anyone else. So
and I think
that is not an easy move for Paul Maurice to make.
No.
Like, he probably was like, well, I don't want to take Hendricks out. I don't want to take Rozovic out. Like,
well, and you have to look at it too. That Rozovic only came up because of injuries, but he played so well that they were like, well,
what do we do?
Stay. But I don't like you said. He's so young. He's going to be on the team next year. He's so young that him being with the team but maybe not playing all the time, it's not going to hurt him.
No, exactly.
And I'm sure he's loving just having the experience. Even if it's game in or game out.
You're seeing. Yeah, you get to see what it's like to be a part of a playoff run like this. Like, this is special.
Yeah.
Like, I mentioned in our group, like, when they won the game 7-4 in game 3, there's something special about this team that has brought me back in. Because, like, I left kind of Jets fandom for a while. Like, I still follow the team. They're in my city, for crying out loud. But there was just so much more excitement going along with the Toronto Maple Leafs. It was so hard to leave that. And then just to witness, and I'm fully on the bandwagon. I'm not going to lie. Like, as I said in our group chat, I'm like, Vince called, or Chipman called, I've got to make a face turn. Can't be a heel anymore. Exactly. Gotta make babyface.
Swerve.
But I'm on board because there is something special with this team. It's not 2012 again. It's not that year. Or was it 2013? 14 they made the playoffs.
15.
15? Okay.
Yeah.
Regardless, this isn't
different.
the same.
This
is not the same team. This is not the same circumstance. And it is a heck of a lot of fun.
It really is, and I really hope the ride's not over soon.
Well, they have at least till game 6 now, which means tonight and Saturday.
Tonight,
and then Monday.
To me, tonight is the biggest game in their history of franchise.
They could go up 3-1
with the weight go. Yeah, like if you go up 3-1 to, I don't think anybody would have seen them going up 3-1 on Nashville.
It's got to be like. No.
I mean, they, like we said, they're within an inch of a glove of being up 3-0.
Yeah.
And if they go up 3-1, do they win it in 5 games? I don't think so, but I don't think Nashville beats them 3 games in a row.
No.
I think the Jets only lost 3 games in a row once this year.
Yeah, like that's.
So if they win tonight and it's a home game, they haven't lost at home in 2 months. Ironically enough, to Nashville.
That's so stupid.
If they can win tonight, I mean,
They're the only team right now in the playoffs that's left that hasn't lost at home.
Yeah. They might not lose at home the rest of the playoffs either. I mean, the way they're going.
Wait, has Tampa lost at home?
Yes,
it is. to Boston.
Yeah, it's wild. It's
unbelievable. Yeah.
I mean, like every year you're watching the playoffs and there's that one team where you're like, I don't see anybody beating them. And to me, that's the Jets right now.
Well, it was kind of like Nashville last year and San Jose the year before. You're like, there's something here. And obviously they ran into a really hot Pittsburgh team, which could still happen.
Could happen again.
Whoever comes out of the East, I don't really know like what's going to happen there because the way that either the Jets, Nashville, or even Vegas or San Jose, like
I think all the West teams are good. Yeah,
I think the West wins this year regardless, just because there's something to be said about their paths here. Like,
and I think this is the first time, maybe ever, that the final 4 teams in the conference have never won a Stanley Cup, like in a long time.
That's insane.
So if it comes out of the West, someone's winning it for the first time. Whereas you go to the East,
3 of the 4,
the only team that hasn't are the Caps.
Washington.
Yeah.
What would a Caps Jets Cup final be?
That'd be wild.
I would have to go. I have to watch Ovi. Like,
I just think
it's a win-win for me. Like, it's actually not.
To me, this year playoffs is more. This is the most like I've watched a lot of this other series. Like it's exciting this year. It's different teams, it's different matchups. I mean, it helps that the Jets are still in it. Normally, I lose interest after the first round. Normally, I find the first round awesome, and then I usually lose interest as it goes on, just because.
This year, I was very disappointed in the first round.
There weren't any upsets.
Unless
you count Vegas as an upset.
There were very few overtime games. There was a lot of lopsided victories. The series weren't very close. It was a much different year. Like, it was kind of like, here are all the great teams, here are the good teams, and here are We just throw them in teams. The New Jersey Devils, Los Angeles Kings. Like, in all reality, I regret picking the Kings to win because they can't score.
Well, but I mean, Fleury, what? His goals against was .56? Like, I mean, like, I think you saw last night with the game last night that if he doesn't steal a game for them, they probably don't win.
Yeah.
Like, they can score, but he's a big part of that.
Oh, well, he going into last night, which I guess now is probably the best time to move into that series. Last night, going into last night, Fleury's goals against average, I think, was like a 1.29.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
That's over 7 playoff games.
But you have to keep in mind
6-1.
I'm pretty sure every game in the LA series was a 1-goal game. I'm pretty sure. A couple of them are overtime games, and Vegas has had an overtime win against the Sharks.
Yeah.
So like they're winning, but they're not. They aren't dominating, even though they swept. Like that was the closest sweep series I think you probably will find.
Well, no.
Statistically.
I think the Anaheim Winnipeg sweep series was a little closer than people like to think.
I just think
minus game 4.
Like if you look at Jonathan Quick's numbers in that series, like
they weren't bad.
They were ridiculous.
Yeah, that team just wasn't. It's not the LA Kings of the past.
No,
essentially.
And I didn't think it was. And
then
I think they honestly got like in my 2 cents. I think they got shafted on the Doughty suspension. I don't think it was suspension worthy, honestly.
I don't think it was either.
Like it was a high hit, but I don't like. He didn't stick his arm out. He just went to hit him.
Yeah, it was a hockey hit,
and he caught him high and like a penalty. But I think they got shafted a little bit on that.
Yeah, that was disappointing. But that's one game.
But it's one game. It is.
But yeah, now you look here, and it's San Jose versus Las Vegas, and it's 2-2 going back to Vegas for Game 5.
Yep. And it's been very even.
Very even. I think last night was a really big, important game for San Jose to play the way they did.
Jonathan Quick's numbers in the first round: 4 games played, 4 losses, 7 goals allowed, 1.55 goals against average, 947 save percentage, and they got swept.
I think that's got to be the best stats by a swept goalie in NHL history.
Like his stats are unreal. And then you have Pecorine, who's in the 800s, and they win their first round series. Yeah. Like it's
goalies are voodoo.
And I get that in the playoffs, goalie stats sometimes drop because you're not playing as many games, right?
Yeah, you don't have those padded stat games against the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, but that's just wow.
Mm-hmm.
So that Vegas series was close, and this one's close too.
2-2.
You know.
Vegas doesn't seem to be the world beaters, and honestly, San Jose, like how awesome would the narratives be if San Jose and Winnipeg play against each other? Evander Kane coming back, arena will be loud.
And you have the player that hates Winnipeg playing on the team that hates Winnipeg, because there was that whole San Jose we hate Winnipeg. So it would be, if you think people in Winnipeg don't like PK Subban, just wait till if that happens, because that will be ridiculous. And you know what, honestly, Kane for the Sharks, he's been awesome. Like, that was a great deal, considering if he doesn't sign, they gave up a second-round pick to get him.
Which isn't bad.
I think
the Leafs gave up a first-round pick.
I can honestly see him staying, though, if they can afford it, because it's kind of like there's 2 guys who were signed were kind of signed as rental players, but you look at how they fit in and what they've done, you almost go, how do they not stay? Kane is one. Stastny is the other one. Now, Stastny, I don't know if they're going to be able to afford that.
The only way they're able to is if they can somehow move Bryan Little off the books.
But with how well he's fit in with that team, like, it's... And I think the thing about that is maybe wait and see. Like, if they win the Cup this year, then maybe they don't. But what if they get close?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's an incentive on his end to say, you know, maybe he'd be willing to maybe take a little bit less money for a couple of years, stay here and try and win.
Well,
you know, so to me, it's going to be very interesting summer for the Jets.
Well, the other thing too is Paul Stastny's other option is go back to St. Louis, where I don't think they're as close as Winnipeg is. No. I really don't think they are. Does Paul Stastny make them better? 100%. But I don't see a Paul Stastny deal happening without moving Bryan Little, and that's nothing against Bryan Little.
Yes,
he's still my favorite Winnipeg Jet. But if you're looking at the top 4 centers next year, You have Scheifele in 1. You'd have Stasny in 2. Rozovic in 3. And Lowry in 4.
The only saving grace that they could do is if they work out, like say they do a 2-year deal. Laine's still on a very cheap contract for another year.
Yeah.
So 1 year,
Potentially
So for next year, So for
moving.
next year, it's not so bad. It's probably the second year, but then Steve Mason's off the books.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So and you got to figure Stastny
could work.
What, $5 million a year for 2 years probably.
Well, he's getting 6 right now.
Yeah, but I think he's a little. I think people would consider his contract a bit of an overpay.
Oh, for sure.
But he's been great. So it's going to be interesting to see to see what these teams do.
The problem is you can't pay him more than Scheifele because he's not better than Scheifele. And
Scheifele's getting 6.5. So I don't think that's happening.
This is your bargaining chip. Whenever you're signing anyone, are you better than number 55? No, you're not getting more money than him.
Wow.
That's your bargaining chip.
Hey, that was a good deal. That was, they signed him at the right time.
Yeah, exactly. So now I think now is the mark where we talk about Game 7 of Leafs Boston, where I was very, very
I felt
nervous for it. I forgot that it was only a week ago. I kind of shoved it in the back of my brain just because it hurt.
Bury the painful memories.
Well, it wasn't a painful memory. It's just one of those things where I wanted them to beat Boston. After Game 1, I didn't expect them to beat Boston, to be honest. As much as I wanted them to, and I thought they could, they didn't play well in Game 1. They played very good in Game 2. Just some of their lineup decisions still baffle me. Their right-handed defensemen aren't good enough. And then Game 7 happened where Jake Gardiner played the worst game of his career. And this team's going to be back. I don't think they're as far gone as people think. I think they're still 1 or 2 pieces away. They have a very important summer this year with having to sign William Nylander. They're going to have to sign... they might sign Matthews. They might sign Marner.
Because they can push those guys back a year if they want, right? Like, contract-wise.
Well, they still have a year left on their entry-level deals.
Yeah, so they don't have to sign them.
They don't have to sign them. But
you might get a deal if you do it.
You might get a little bit
There's
of a
always
discount.
that, what if Matthews scores 100 points next year? Then you're
giving him McDavid money.
Yeah. Whereas if you sign him now, maybe you get...
Where Marner's going to make... Marner, I hope they don't give him Draisaitl money. I really hope not. That's my only concern, is that this team is going to fall down and they're going to be like, well...
I think the Draisaitl contract has shown that it was a bad contract.
Yeah, McDavid is I think Matthews is as good as McDavid. And Marner's definitely as good as Draisaitl, so they make the same money. And I hate those types of deals because you're eating up so much cap space in 2 players.
I really hope they don't. I feel like Kevin Cheveldayoff might have done this a solid for the Leafs because they can look at Scheifele, they can look at Ehlers and say...
Well, that's the first...
Say, look at what these guys make. And then compare Marner to those guys and say, is he above? Is he at that level? What do you?
So it
gives them a bit of a better bargaining chip.
I would argue that Marner is going to be around Scheifele money, whereas Nylander is going to be below Ehlers money, below or around that. I think that's where the conversation starts. So if Marner can be 6.5, 7, Ehlers can be, or not Ehlers, Nylander can be about 6, and then Matthews, you're talking 9 to 11 million. Is what I think.
I can't see it being less than 10.
But Toronto in Game 7 had a lead going into the third period again, 4-3, and played poor defensively. Frederik Andersen couldn't save their ass because that's as good as he was. He wasn't great. That's the thing. He was great in times. He was bad in other times, but. You can't put the series on him. You can't put the series on Jake Gardiner. You also can't say anything bad about Austin Matthews. Guy had 27 shots in the series. Was shooting at 3.1%. That is very unsustainable for a player of his caliber. If he's shooting at 10%, maybe they win the series. But because he only scored... And people are always going to revert back to the number of points he had, which is fine. It's a fair argument. It's how we evaluate players. We say they scored this many points. Fine, he had a bad series, but I don't think he was by far the reason why they lost. So, I still think they just ran into a good team, and they didn't take advantage of Rask playing very poor, to be honest.
He did not look good, and honestly, if you want, my 2 cents, when Boston went up 3-1, I thought it was over. I thought Game 5 because it was good. Back in Boston, The Leafs
And then
had
the Leafs went up 4-1.
well, yeah, they felt like making everybody sweat, but they just the first 2 games Toronto looked so outclassed, and then I didn't see it going past 5.
Yeah.
And as soon as Toronto won Game 5, part of me in my head I said I think Boston may have blown their chance. Because Game 6 again, Toronto looked really good, and then going to Game 7, I fully thought Toronto was winning that game.
It went back and forth,
And
then
with
they
the way it started, they were
they just folded
it
in the
certainly
third. I
looked
think.
like
I think Babcock got too much into the matchup game, which I'm starting to dislike him a little bit with his decision making. And I'm not an NHL coach by any stretch, but sometimes you've got to try something if other things aren't working. Put Gardner and Riley together. Who cares if they're both left-handed defensemen? Put them together. They're your best 2 defensemen. Put them out there. Put Travis Dermott, get him away from Roman Polak, and maybe try him with Nikita Zaitsev. Maybe that'll help him. Try playing Marner with Matthews and see what happens. I know you say that you see things that we don't. Why the hell does Roman Polak play 7 games of that series when he wasn't fit to play 1? Like, he was outclassed out there. So I do question a lot of things. And then news came out earlier this week that Lou Lamoriello will no longer be the GM or won't be rehired as GM. It's unknown if he's going to stay with the team as an advisor or something like that. I could see him moving into some other role.
I thought they had.
Well, there's rumors
Rumors that he was going.
So I think right now he still has a spot with the team as an advisor or as somewhere in hockey ops. He's there, but there are rumors that he might go to the Islanders.
Oh. Interesting.
I'm not sure if that's going to happen or not, but that's kind of where the rumor mill is spinning right now for him.
Is Garth Snow still there? Or did they can him?
I think he's still there.
He's still there.
Yeah,
That's surprising.
Yeah, I know. He might lose Jonathan Tavares, too, which will
You know
be
what the best part
nice.
about this is? The Leafs guys can grow beards again.
Yeah, and they can wear wacky numbers. They don't have to wear up to 51. And
I'm sorry, but the whole no facial hair thing to me, that's so ridiculous. I get that he's like a very old school, professional, clean cut. That's what he likes, but to me I don't know. To me that's silly. I really think that's silly. But
completely unrelated note. My favorite NFL team just signed their quarterback to a 5-year extension worth $100 million guaranteed. So I'm sure there's more money there. So that's Matt Ryan signed with the Atlanta Falcons. Looks like it's going to be $30 million per season. And we talk about a player making $10 million. Like, that's too much money. That's insane.
the NHL, you can complain about
Such a baby league.
about what they're paid, but you really got to look at
The other leagues?
baseball,
Holy
basketball, football. It's
You have Kevin Durant. I think it's Durant. That's option. It's either Durant or LeBron. One of them. They're optioning out of a $25 million contract because they want more money. It's like, holy shit! Like it's
You're giving up 25 so you can get more.
Well, then they're talking about LeBron's next contract could be $200 million. Like, how is that not insane? And then we're sitting here and I'm like, well, I really hope they pay Matthews only $10 million, not $11 million. The best player on the team, and he's only going to make double-digit millions by like 1. It's insane. Like, the NHL, in a sense, is so much fourth down. The thing is, somebody made a good point, and I kind of agree with it. The NHL right now is they need to figure out what direction they want to go into because they could be a dominant league because hockey is such a good sport. That hockey is basically, because of how good the sport is, it's saving the NHL from how broken it is.
Yeah.
Because really, like, Gary Bettman, I have my problems with him. I think he's an okay commissioner. But then you have the NBA commissioner, who I believe his name's Adam Silver. He is unbelievable. Like, he's the best commissioner. Regardless of how broken his league is, they are making so much money. They're making hand over fist. No one has anything bad to say about him, which is nice to hear. And he's talking about how they're going to bring potentially the first woman coach into the NBA.
Did not hear that.
Yeah. So, well, they're talking about it being a perspective, and
Yeah.
why not? Like, basketball is, I think, the same, similar to hockey in a sense, but again, I wouldn't have no issue with a woman coach behind the bench in a hockey team. It's all about how you understand the game.
Yeah.
And that's one thing with basketball.
You start on the media side of hockey. You're starting to see females get into.
Oh, they're everywhere, which is fantastic.
Like CBC has
Cassie Campbell.
Yep.
And they have.
There's I forget what her name is, but on NBC she was doing some of the play-by-play with with the guys. I forget what her name is, but
yeah.
So it's honestly it's about time. Like, why not?
Well, and that's the thing. If they're talented enough, my theory has always been you pick the person that's most suited for the position.
Yeah.
And if that happens to be a female, great, go with that person. That's what they need to do. I would like to see more. I would be okay with seeing more female analysts, to be honest, as well. Like, why not? Why not grab, instead of TSN and Sportsnet saying, okay, well, Paul Bissonnette, you come here. Why don't they pull Marie-Philippe Poulin and be like, why don't you come and dissect this game for us? Or bring on Hillary Knight if you're NBC. And maybe they have asked and the girls have said no, but it would be interesting to get their insight because they've played at an international level, at the highest level that you can play for a female, and they've been very successful.
Yeah.
So why not bring them in, hear their insights, hear the way they break down the game? Because it could come from a different side, especially considering the fact that these women play non-contact hockey and the way that they see a play unfold versus how these guys see a play unfold, because they always have to be worried about that hit, right? I don't know. I don't know how we got here, but I think I would be okay with it. I think it could be the progression,
absolutely,
the right progression for hockey. But I think that the NHL needs to figure out something marketing-wise to really push this to the next level, because I'd be okay with seeing a $95 million cap with the max contract being $15 million or something like that, right? Which is where it's trending, but we're also always in fear of a lockout.
What does it say back to like the whole how poorly the NHL is run? How bad is it that when the lockout ended in 2013, they literally were like, "Okay, we're gonna play, but there's gonna be a lockout in 6 years." Like, they already know. Like, they haven't come out and said it, but they're basically, I think they're planning that there's going to be no hockey in 2 years?
2020, 2021.
Yet,
so
they approve an application for an expansion team to start playing that season.
Or is it 21-22 and Seattle starts 2020?
No, Seattle's supposed to come in the year that there's supposed to be a lockout.
So
what? Like, is there not going to be a lockout? Did they just not care? They're just like, we'll figure it out.
And the biggest bargaining chip that the Board of Governors brought forward with that was, well, we'll let you guys go to the Olympics if you extend the bargaining agreement. And they're like, no. So what they have to do is they have to figure out, well, we need to... I think part of it, too, is the way the NHL old men are. Like,
the old boys club?
Exactly. Like... We look at the NHL and we're like, oh, they're so classy. They're such classy individuals, and that's part of hockey, right? Like, but it's almost like we're so stubborn that we don't want to celebrate individuality at all. Like, the first guy that tries to show any individuality, we slam him down. We're like, no, bad PK. Get back in your corner. Go do other things. Don't try to donate to charity.
Yeah,
I actually saw a funny tweet because the NHL lottery happened over the weekend, and obviously Montreal had an opportunity to get the first overall pick. They were one of the three teams. The three teams were Montreal, Carolina, and Buffalo. And someone tweeted, they're like, "This just in: Rasmus Dahlin just donated $10 million to charity, and he says I'm going to have a personality." Guess Montreal's already thinking about trading him.
Yep, gone. Done.
But I think we need to let players be players instead of being like, we need to have media training to make sure they don't say the wrong thing. Let them be themselves. Let them show a little bit of character, a little bit of personality. Like, that's one of the things we loved about NHL 24/7 was the fact these guys were unscripted. They were unhinged. Yeah. They were saying whatever on the... Like, hockey chirping is the most vulgar you can get.
Oh, 100%.
Like, we've all... Like, you've played hockey. I've played hockey. I've coached hockey. I've reffed hockey. I've heard it all. I've heard everything in the book. And it's hilarious. There's times where there was those chirps that you're just like, I want to laugh. I really want to laugh. Like, one of my kids this year on the team I coached had a really funny chirp to one of the kids on the other team, and I had to, like, turn the same way that Alain Vigneault did when what's his face did the chimp thing towards
Oh, yeah, I forget who was that.
Lapierre?
He was laughing.
Yeah, and he's like laughing behind his lineup card, and they basically did the same thing. I was like, that's funny. Let's let's embrace that a little bit more in hockey. It'd be nice to see.
My argument would be like, so PK Subban. So you have a problem with him off the ice donating money to help sick children. You have a problem with that, but you don't have a problem with what he does on the ice, which at times is borderline embarrassing for hockey. I'm sorry, but it is. I mean, he's a great player. He's a great human being, but I don't even know how to...
His antics on the ice.
It's almost embarrassing to watch sometimes. It's just... He's not a dirty player. He's not, well, okay.
He's bored. Like, he's not Brad Marchand level dirty.
But he just embarrasses himself. The Jets score a goal, so he stands on the ice for a minute pretending that he has tape stuck on his stick. And the referee's there saying, like, get off the ice. And he still stands there. Or, he goes after someone, and the second someone touches him, he keels on the ground, or he rolls around on the ground, and it's...
What was that? I think was it game 2 when, like...
Oh, he got hit in the front and he grabbed his knee?
Yeah. That was fun.
And everybody knows he does it, and it's part of PK, and it's fine. But, yeah, like, don't discourage... My point is, if he wants to contribute outside of hockey, then why are you discouraging him from that?
Yeah. Why are you saying his personality is the problem when it's not the problem?
Yeah.
It's... they said it's because he was getting bigger than the Montreal Canadiens, which you should try to embrace. Like, nobody knew Golden State before Curry started to go off for them. He brought Golden State in. Kevin Durant, big reason why OKC was successful. They came from Seattle to OKC, where they were kicked out of Seattle and then brought to OKC, partly because of arena issues. And him and Russell Westbrook were the guys that brought that team to relevancy. Yeah. It's sometimes you have to play the marketing game around your players. You have to say, these are the guys we're going to market, and we're going to let their personalities flow through. And that's, like, we should embrace guys like Dustin Byfuglien who have personalities. And we should allow players to have a little bit more individuality. With that note, though, I do want to move on to Pittsburgh, Washington, which has been nothing short of enjoyable, but I think we have to talk about Tom Wilson. He was suspended for 3 games for an illegal check to the head on a Pittsburgh Penguin player I didn't know played for Pittsburgh, but
yeah, I honestly, I
didn't know he existed.
I don't know. I don't know who he hit.
I didn't know this player actually played in the NHL. I didn't know he existed, but once again, it's a classic.
Tom Wilson knew.
Yeah. No, it was a classic Penguins player that just comes from Wilkes-Barre Scranton, and that's it. Even though everybody on the Caps are saying, oh, Tom Wilson's not that type of guy. We disagree with it. Like TJ Oshie said it. Ovechkin kind of alluded to it. His name was Aston Reese. Last name was Aston Reese, who suffered a broken jaw and a concussion from the hit.
I think the problem with
Zach Aston Reese.
I think the problem with Tom Wilson is that I don't know that he's like a dirty player per se, but he's not afraid to take a run at you. And I think he throws a lot of devastating clean checks, but then he also throws a lot of hits that are right on that borderline.
Well,
I think the problem is that he teeters on that line so delicately that you feel that they should discipline him because he's hurt guys, but he's also hurt guys with checks that aren't necessarily always that bad, if you know what I mean. But then you have to look at the other side of, if he's hurting people, then what is he doing that is causing him to hurt people?
Well, and you look at it, it's not the thing about the hit to Aston Reese, which we'll talk about right now. It's not like he used an extension of his body to catch a guy. He's not chicken winging guys. He's not slew footing guys. He's not that type of player. He literally just left his feet, got shoulder into face. Mm-hmm. However, if you look at it from the angle that I'm pretty sure the main ref saw it at, it's a very hard call to make because it just looks like it's a shoulder-on-shoulder hit. It's not until you see the reverse angle slowed down that you realize, oh no, he caught primary point of face. But it's that wasn't his intention. I don't think he's a guy like Brad Marchand who knows exactly what he's doing. It's just interesting that he's the one that always finds himself in these positions.
Well, it's 2 games in a row, right? Because
you
had
the Brian Dumoulin one,
which to me looked like he was going for the hit. At the same time, he sees Ovechkin going for the hit, and then
he let up.
He braces himself, but he still follows through with the hit.
Because
that's
what you should do, though.
He shrugs his shoulders up because he sees Ovi coming at him, and when he does that, his shoulder catches Dumoulin in the head. Mm-hmm. But again, it's a matter of the guy with the reputation being caught in these awkward situations where you're like, you want to believe him, but
is it a coincidence or is it who he is? Like, I have a tough time believing that guys actually go out there to try to injure players. I don't think that's ever his intention. I think his intention is, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to play on that edge. The same way that Brad Marchand does. And I got a really good taste of it again this year when Boston played Toronto. Like, he's a jerk. He's a pest. He toes that line and crosses it a lot. Does he make dirty plays? Sure. Is he a dirty player? Questionable. I think that he just toes that line so close. The same with Tom Wilson, that I think that they're not doing crazy dangerous things that are going to obliterate people on a regular basis. But something needs to be done to keep these players in check. Suspensions is one of them. I don't know what another step is, what the NHL can take with these guys, but there needs to be something done. That you can't get away with towing the line always. That it's great that that's your play style. It's great that you wanna affect the game in a rough way. You want to play like a prototypical hockey player, bang and crash. But there also has to be something said with injuring players on a regular basis.
I think that Tom Wilson, I think what it was is that, you know, the result of this most recent hit was obviously bad, broken jaw concussion. Was it a super dirty hit? I don't think so.
Once again, he didn't use any extension of his body to go after the guy. All he did was he followed through in a height mismatch.
But I think it's a matter of this is the second game in a row, and he had a questionable hit in the first round too. And I think this is the NHL kind of stepping in and saying, whatever you're doing,
find a way to change it.
Because guys are getting hurt. And he knocked someone out in the first round. I think it was Wenberg.
Oh, yeah.
Caught him with, again, a hit that you look at it, you're like, it's right on that line. And actually, I heard on the radio today, this is interesting. Apparently, George Peros met with Tom Wilson before the season started, and they walked through some of his hits, like his questionable ones that he's had. And basically, Peros just said, here's what you're doing, here's what I like about it, here's what I don't like about it. Basically, telling him that not saying that hits were bad, but saying there's things you can do to decrease the chance of injury.
Make it safer.
Make it safer. So obviously, that maybe that plays a part in this too. That maybe the fact that they've talked and then he hasn't really changed the way he's played, and now they're trying to get the message to him that you could be a little safer. You could be, but you don't want to discourage a guy from hitting because it's a contact sport. I mean, it's a guy like that plays on the edge. I mean, can he tone it down a little bit? Maybe, but you don't want to take away from what he does.
No, I agree.
So it's tough, but I was surprised it was 3. I thought he'd get a game. 3 games to me was a surprise. So that
nice to see.
So that to me says that they're serious about they want him to
tone it back.
Interesting
note. Washington is up 2-1 in that series right now.
Have they ever been up against Pittsburgh?
I don't know, but they're up 2-1. They've won in Pittsburgh, which is something that's very hard to do.
Yeah.
After falling in game 1, so now you look. And I'm not saying they're going to win tonight. They have a tough test.
Ovi's showing up real big time.
He's so good. I love him.
Yeah.
If there's a player the best thing, did you see when he celebrated his goal, the game winner in game, and he goes to the fans, he's cheering, and all the Pittsburgh fans are just giving him the finger, and it's I love you, Ovi.
Oh yeah.
his
They have
presence
my
is amazing.
For East, they have my full support. If an East team wins, I want it to be Washington.
I love Washington.
I want Ovi.
I'm sick of Pittsburgh. I'm just sick of them.
I'm sick of Pittsburgh, but I just think Ovi deserves it. He busts his ass.
I think if for whatever reason Winnipeg loses and the Capitals win,
I'd be upset, but that'd be okay.
I'll be a little bit heartbroken.
If they beat the Jets, I'll live. I'll live.
Beat the Jets in Winnipeg, like I said earlier, with Ovi holding the cup. Oh God, I don't think I could handle it. But at the same time, like, it's Ovechkin.
I mean, honestly, there's not really a team in the East. Like, if the Jets get to the final and they lose, there's
Boston. I don't want to see Boston win.
I don't really care.
Screw the Bruins.
I'm sure Marchand will do something to make me hate him.
Well, no, he'll be an absolute idiot. And all I want is a short series where they just dominate them. Bufflin hits Marchand 182 times, and they expose Tuukka Rask for being not very good.
Bufflin and Chara would be interesting.
Yeah,
I mean, Chara's an old man now, so I think Buff would just.
Yeah, I don't think they'd fight each other, but
okay,
interesting.
David Pastrnak, holy smokes!
Yeah, what a pick, eh?
That kid is amazing.
He's something else.
Amazing.
What's his cap hit right now?
I don't know.
Because I think he just signed a contract. If I'm not mistaken, I think he held out for part of the year.
He is incredible. Like he's
something else
like,
for sure. David Pastrnak 6'6".
Yeah,
He's 21.
I just couldn't believe. Like I know he had kind of the breakout year last year. He had 40 come on goals.
Yeah.
But I've never really watched him play until the playoffs this year, and holy smokes.
Well, the funny thing that I found about Boston is their bottom six have made up names. Like, these names are not real. Although they are getting such great contributions from all their young guys. Like, it's crazy how much we gave them gaff. They have a very good young core.
They do.
With Jake DeBrusk, Danton Heinen, Ryan Donato.
And I think you didn't realize it because the spotlight was always on Bergeron, Marchand, Krejci, and then Pastrnak.
Like, these are names that I would make up in my head, like Acciari, Tommy Wingies, Schaller, Corrali. Like,
hey man,
who are you? Get out of here!
They're getting the job done.
They are. Matt Grizzlick. What kind of last name is that? Who puts a Z right after an R? No one.
I don't know.
Matt Grizzlick does.
He must be one of those millennial names.
Yeah, it must be. But it's his last name. So it's one of those that has come a long way.
It's been there for a while.
It's like Kevin Churchman for the Manitoba Moose, who are in the second round of the Calder Cup playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
They're playing Rockford. They beat Grand Rapids Griffins in Game 5 of their series.
Defending champs.
Yeah, so that's today's Moose droppings.
Yeah.
And last thing today, Fallen for Dolan. Finally has.
Now we know. There's no more surprise.
Buffalo with it.
Buffalo, if they don't take him.
So Buffalo will both have two Rasmuses on their blue line. Rasmus Ristolainen.
That's true.
And Rasmus Dahlin, which it works. It works for them.
They are really missing a star defenseman.
They are, and they're like.
They've got forwards. They're missing a star defenseman.
And they need consistency out of goaltending, and they need Jack Eichel to be healthy.
Yeah.
I still think that they're like they should go out and get a player. Like, I don't care who it is, but they need to go out and get someone else for their forward core just to kind of bring it more together. I wouldn't be surprised if Nylander comes up with them next year. I'm blanking on what his first name is. I keep thinking William or Michael, but it's not either of those names. Oh, this is going to bug me. Regardless, I could see him coming up next year to play with Buffalo.
I have a theory. Maybe not a theory, but a question. A scenario. You tell me what you think. Ottawa did not win the lottery.
They are picking fourth.
Do you think that they potentially go to the Sabres?
Alex Nylander.
Do you think that they potentially go to the Sabres and try and swing an Erik Karlsson for the first overall pick deal? Buffalo gets their star defenseman. Ottawa gets to draft Dahlin to fill in for
Okay.
Karlsson, because if Ottawa gets rid of Erik Karlsson and doesn't have a replacement for him, I don't know where that team goes. Granted, maybe Karlsson stays. I just don't see how that would happen at this point.
So my thoughts are that he should, like, I hate the idea because you're keeping Erik Karlsson in the Atlantic, and you're keeping Dahlin in the Atlantic,
and it would be in division, an in division trade. So
those are tough to execute, especially one of that magnitude. But
I don't know if it would happen.
Like,
it just
the only way that trade works is if Ottawa can keep their fourth as well. So they pick 1 and 4.
Pick 1 and 4.
Because what you're trying to sell Ottawa is a rebuild and hope.
Yeah.
But by getting rid of your 4th overall pick as well, just to get a defenseman where you do need some help in forward as well.
And I don't think Buffalo would be willing to give up their first round pick altogether.
Well, if it was, but what's worth more? Is it Karlsson and something worth the first round? Like, that's where you have to deem what is the value for Karlsson, what's the value for that first overall pick in Rasmus Dahlin, or to have the right to draft him. It would be so Ottawa to get that pick and then pick Kachuk out of all of that.
Totally.
But you have to essentially deem what is more valuable. You have to deem, okay, is a simple 1-for-1? Probably not. What would probably happen, in my mind at least, would be if you're trading that first overall pick, Buffalo's got to be getting another pick, which could be a second round pick, coming back to them, or a future first. Like, where is, like, there's no one really like Buffalo would trade as part of it as well, because I think roster wise, I think that Ottawa would also want another roster player.
Well, but the other thing too is that the whole Bobby Ryan, they want him in that deal too, right? So.
Yeah. So if you want a cap dump, like, I don't know who you can take. I'm looking at Buffalo's cap friendly right now.
It's interesting.
They're not that deep offense. They also have Jason Pominville on a $5.6 million a year contract.
Yeah.
Ryan O'Reilly on a 7.5 till eternity for the next 5 years after this year. Mm-hmm. They have Okposo on $6 million for the next 5 years, which he was not very good this year.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting lead up to the draft.
It's an interesting thought, because then you have, well, then your right D are Ristolainen, Bogosian, and Karlsson. You could essentially have Nathan Beaulieu play with, or Beaulieu, however you want to say it. You could have him play with Karlsson. Then they still have Scandella. Mm-hmm. They still have Josh George is a UFA. I wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole. No. They have he's a UFA. Yikes. Yeah, they're thin on D.
Yeah.
They're thin out there.
Maybe take Dahlin, he can keep building for a year or two.
Well, the thing is the guys they have under contract right now defensively are Rasmus Ristolainen, who they have for another 4 years at 5.4, who's 23. Zach Bogosian for 2 years at 5.14. He's 27.
He doesn't play.
He's hurt. Marco Scandella, who's 28, has 2 more years left at 4. Nathan Beaulieu's got 1 year left at 2.4. Jake McCabe's got 1 year left at 1.6, and he's 24. So you bring in Dahlin to this defensive core. You have 6 defensemen under the age of 30. Mm-hmm. I guess Karlsson's still under 30 as well. I think it's an interesting conversation. I just don't know what you have that's valuable enough for it.
Yeah. I just think the Karlsson thing's going to be very interesting to watch.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Well, they get a $458,000 credit next year for buying out Cody Hodgson.
I forgot about him.
I'll never understand credits and buyouts. I have to read more into that. But they also have Matt Molson in the minors making $5 million next season.
That's true, yeah. And they've got some of those guys they have are on long contracts.
Yeah.
Like, they still have Molson. They still have, Pominville, they traded back for him.
Yeah. I wouldn't be.
But they did get Scandella, so I think that was part of it too.
They got Josh Georges. Like, Scandella's going to be fine, I think.
Like, they signed Okposo, and that was a bust.
Yeah. Well, it was either Okposo or Ladd. And Ladd had a clause to never play with Kane again, I think.
And Ladd also, that was a horrible deal for the Islanders.
Yeah, that one didn't make a ton of sense.
I mean, how far he's fallen since he left
I
Winnipeg.
might have said he would fallen for dollars.
I think just make him show you that maybe the guys he was playing with in Winnipeg were.
Yeah.
I mean, he played with Blake Wheeler, and Andrew Ladd always got the spotlight. Now, the second that Ladd leaves, Wheeler's a 90-point scorer, and Ladd can't get 10 goals. So, it's interesting. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So I think that's all we got for this week. Obviously, next week, hopefully Cam can return from his deathbed.
Yeah.
As he's got bronchitis or strep throat or measles or something.
He'll be back.
Something contagious that we don't want. It might be the bubonic plague. I don't know.
I think he's got the white oat fever.
White oat fever
The Jets are doing so well. It's killing him.
It really is.
Yeah.
He wants this ride to end.
Yeah.
This is like a month of terror for him.
Yep.
Either way, thank you guys all very much for listening. If you want to check out the show, take it on the go with you. Check us out on Podomatic, Last Minute Podcast, how you find us there. If you are at home, want to check us out on YouTube, Last Minute Podcast is how you find us on there. Hit that subscribe button. We're hitting our 4-year mark, and we're also close to 100 subscribers. So please hit that subscribe button. And comment down below on YouTube how you found us. And also follow us on Twitter at LastMinutePC. And if you have any questions, you can always email the show, lastminutepc@gmail.com. Thank you very much for listening this week, and we'll talk to you guys next week. Hopefully with a Winnipeg Jets series win.
Fingers crossed.
Oh, God, did I just jinx it?
Don't jinx it.
The anti-jinx. There we go.